I pushed open the campaign office door for my speech cards. Talia Voss, my fiancée and campaign manager, had both hands on Grant Pike's face. She kissed him beside my precinct map. Grant saw me first. He stepped back without looking ashamed. 10 weeks later, I would ask Blackwater County voters to reject me. That Monday evening, I still meant to win commissioner and remain fire chief. Omar Ruiz expected me at his civic meeting in 20 minutes. My rural precinct captain had already warned me not to cancel again. "How long?" I asked. "Months," Talia said. Her voice stayed level. "This did not begin tonight." Grant, my former protege and election rival, stood behind her. My private precinct cards lay across his desk. They listed undecided households, volunteer shifts, and Omar's concerns about rural hydrants. I crossed the room and gathered every card. Talia did not block me. "Those notes will not fix what you ignored." A black campaign pin rested near my fire turnout coat. Someone had fastened it beside the reflective chest stripe. I had worn that coat in campaign photographs. District rules allowed me to run. They did not allow campaigning while on duty. They also barred campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. I pulled off the pin and closed my fist around it. "You're still going?" Talia asked. Omar kept my time. "I'll keep mine." I left Grant's office with the cards under my arm. My speech at the firehouse was short, but I delivered it. Omar introduced me by name and did not soften the hard questions. That counted as the night's only clean result. Afterward, I sat in my truck and studied the cards. I had to learn what Talia had transferred to Grant. First, I needed to know whether my own pictures had already placed both my campaign and command at risk. Talia came to district headquarters after duty hours Tuesday. She stopped outside the front doors where the concrete changed color at the threshold. I stayed outside with her. Our breakup did not belong inside a public building. The doors stayed shut behind us, preserving the boundary I had already blurred. She held 2 keys on a plain steel ring. One opened my house. The other opened the station entrance for campaign breakfasts I should never have allowed. "What did you give Grant?" I asked. "My judgment, my time and information I helped create," Talia said. "Those precinct cards were private," I said. "So was our engagement," Talia replied. The keys struck my palm. She let go before I closed my fingers. I asked if she had shared personnel records or district material. Talia's face hardened. "No. I gave Grant campaign plans, volunteer schedules, and promises you postponed. I did not give him protected records." The answer should have eased one fear. Instead, it showed how carefully she had divided the damage. "How many months?" I asked. 4, Talia said. The number landed harder than the kiss. 4 months covered donor dinners, route planning, and our last meeting about wedding announcements. "You could have left first." "I should have," she said. "I chose badly. I am still leaving." I asked her to come home and talk. I offered to step back from campaign decisions. Even while saying it, I framed control as something I could loan her. Talia heard it and said, "You still think the campaign belongs to you alone?" "The volunteers are people, Wes. They are not equipment assigned to your command." "I never called them equipment," I said. "You schedule them like crews. You cancel on them like they will always return," Talia said. My anger rose, then found nowhere useful to go. She had betrayed me. She was also naming something true. "Are you working for Grant now?" I asked. "I am choosing my own political role," Talia said. "That is not an answer," I said. "It is the only one you get tonight." Talia glanced toward the station doors. "You use this threshold for campaign breakfasts. Grant believes that matters. He can file whatever complaint he wants. He may not need my help." She turned toward her car. I noticed a folded reservation form in her hand. "What did you reserve?" I asked. "A civic stage," Talia said. "For what?" I asked. Talia opened her door and said, "You will hear the announcement Friday." She drove away with the engagement ended and her keys returned. I stood outside the station with one urgent question. The same stage we had reserved for our wedding announcement now belonged to Talia. I had 3 days to learn what she planned to do with it. Wednesday night, I spread campaign boxes across my garage work table. Eli Mercer joined me after his shift at the feed store. Eli was the adult foster son I had raised. At 26, he still knew exactly when I was hiding behind a job title. "We remove anything tied to the district," I said. "Uniforms, vehicles, station pictures, all of it." "You mean now?" "I mean tonight," I said. Eli opened a box marked Field Events. He lifted out signed stakes, tape, and volunteer badges. Then he found the black campaign pin. He turned it between his fingers and asked, "Where was this?" "Near my turnout coat," I said. "Near it or on it?" "Attached beside the chest stripe." He set the pin down. Its point clicked against the wood. "You told recruits not to wear union pins on district gear," he said. "That was different," I said. "How?" "The district had received complaints." Eli waited. I hated that pause. I had taught it to him. When excuses started multiplying, I told him to stop talking and count the facts. I picked up the pin and said, "It should not have been there." "Did you put it there?" Eli asked. "I don't remember." "Did you take campaign pictures in the coat?" "Yes. But the pictures were about fire safety," I said. "Were they campaign pictures?" I looked toward the garage shelves. Old helmets sat above jars of bolts and nails. None offered an answer I could respect. "Yes." Eli pulled a legal pad closer. He wrote uniform photos across the top. "Any engines?" he asked. "One community parade," I said. "Station rooms?" "2 volunteer meetings." "Duty time?" Eli asked. "Maybe parts of 2 events." He looked up. "Maybe. I need to check the schedule." Eli had once missed curfew while helping a stranded driver. I grounded him anyway. Good motives, I told him then, did not create special permission. He remembered the sentence. So did I. "Is there one rule for the chief?" he asked. "No." "Then why are you answering like there is?" Shame pushed against my anger. Anger was easier, so I reached for it first. "I asked for an inventory, not a trial." Eli closed the box and said, "An inventory needs honest labels." He agreed to search every campaign file. Before leaving, he placed the pin in the center of the table. By morning, I had to tell Noreen Shaw about the pictures. If I waited, Eli might find more before I admitted what I already knew. Noreen Shaw closed her office door Thursday morning. As district administrator, she handled conduct reviews before the commission became involved. I placed my first inventory page on her desk. It listed uniform photographs, a parade engine, and 2 station meetings. Noreen read each line twice. "I removed the images from our campaign pages. Can voluntary correction contain this?" I said. "That depends on the full pattern," Noreen said. "I am giving you the pattern. You are giving me 1 page. She opened a file and removed a signed letter. My initials appeared at the bottom. 6 months earlier, Noreen had warned me in writing. The rule was plain: no campaigning while on duty, and no campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. I had acknowledged it after a station photo appeared in my first campaign mailer. "That was 1 picture," I said. "The warning covered more than 1 picture," Noreen said. I corrected it. "You removed that mailer from later printing. You did not complete an inventory." Noreen kept her voice flat. She always gave the rule, the option, and the consequence in that order. "The rule bars district resources from campaign use," she said. "Your option is complete disclosure and removal. The consequence may increase if use continued after notice." "May increase to what?" "Temporary limits on command work, paid desk duty, or suspension if repeated conduct is supported." My throat tightened. "You can suspend me?" "I can impose temporary restrictions under delegated authority. Permanent discipline requires notice and review by the full commission." That distinction mattered. It did not make the risk small. "What counts as proof after notice?" I asked. "A dated photograph, event record, duty schedule, or reliable witness," Noreen said. I thought about the turnout coat and the campaign pin. I also remembered a fire prevention event held after Noreen's letter. "Do you know of something?" she asked. "I know what I need to check." Noreen slid the inventory page back to me. "Bring the complete list by Friday afternoon. Include dates, buildings, vehicles, uniforms, and duty hours." "And if I do?" I asked. "Then you will have corrected your present conduct. That does not erase earlier conduct." Her answer left me a narrow kind of hope. Honest correction might limit the damage, but it could not rewrite the record. Talia's civic event began Friday evening. Before then, I had to search every photograph and schedule. I also owed Omar a rural work date before the next week swallowed it. Thursday evening, I reached the volunteer firehouse 5 minutes early. Omar Ruiz had saved my speaking slot from Monday and invited me back for details. Omar was my rural precinct captain and a hard advocate for neglected roads. He stood beside a county map pinned to plywood. I placed campaign sign-in sheets on a folding table. Omar covered them with 3 smaller maps. Red circles marked hydrants. Blue lines marked roads that delayed tankers and ambulances. "This is Heron Road. The north hydrant turns, but it gives brown water, Omar said. He tapped another line. Quarry route has no safe marker at the bend. A driver can pass that hydrant at night. I asked Public Works for a road review, I said. 7 weeks ago, Omar said. They have limited crews. So do we, Omar said. 10 residents watched from metal chairs. They had come for dates, not my reasons. Omar showed me a third map. Station 4 sent this twice. The hydrant near Bell Creek School sits behind brush. I never received the second copy. You did. I handed it to Talia at your fish fry. That placed the map inside my campaign operation. It also meant Talia knew another promise I had postponed. I opened my notebook. I can hold a work meeting Tuesday. Omar shook his head. Tuesday is the livestock board. You were told that. Wednesday, then, I said. Are you coming as fire chief or as a candidate? The question split the room cleanly. If it is district work, I come as chief, I said. And if the district cannot schedule it, I return as a resident and document the sites. Omar studied me. Those are different jobs. Keep them different. I promised dates for inspections, brush removal requests, and marker needs. Then I gave the commissioner's speech I had prepared Monday. No one interrupted. No one applauded either. Afterward, 2 volunteers signed my sheet. 6 left without touching it. Omar folded the maps but did not hand them over. I need copies, I said. I sent copies. Send them again, I said. That is how rural work disappears, he said. We keep sending the same need until someone in town calls it new. I apologized for missing earlier meetings. Omar accepted the words without granting relief. Put Wednesday in writing, he said. Name the roads and name who will attend. I left with my speaking promise kept and my support narrowed. Before Friday afternoon, I needed a complete image inventory. Before Wednesday, I needed a rural meeting that campaign trouble could not cancel. Friday evening, rows of white chairs faced the Civic Hall stage. Talia and I had reserved that stage for our wedding announcement. Now her volunteers wore Grant Pike badges. Grant, my former protege and election rival, stood near the microphone. He had once asked me to recommend him for battalion chief. I had refused because he lacked field command time. Talia stepped forward first. Her voice carried without strain. My engagement to Wes Calder has ended, and I am also leaving his campaign, she said. A rustle moved through the room. Talia waited until it stopped. I endorse Grant Pike for Blackwater County Commissioner. Grant listens before promises become overdue. She did not mention the affair. She did not need to. Half the room had seen them arrive together. I walked toward the stage. 3 of my volunteers removed their badges as I passed. Talia, I said, you helped build my platform. I helped build plans, she said. You kept final control. Grant took the microphone. His suit looked pressed enough for television. We welcome anyone who served Wes in good faith, he said. This will be a shared campaign, not a private command post. A volunteer named Ruth carried 2 contact lists from my table to his. Others followed with clipboards, phone sheets, and canvassing routes. Talia had not stolen the lists. Her team had created most of them. The distinction did nothing for my field operation. I asked for 1 minute at the microphone. Grant smiled and said, Of course, public service should never fear a fair hearing. I faced the room. My campaign used fire service images. I am reviewing each use with the district. The affair and that review are separate matters. They are separate. Keep them separate, Talia said. Grant nodded as if granting permission. Still, a chief who places campaign needs beside emergency equipment blurs a vital line. It resembles parking a campaign bus in front of an ambulance bay. The comparison was polished and too broad. No response vehicle had been blocked. Yet my campaign pin had touched turnout gear, and station rooms had hosted volunteers. An image is not a blocked ambulance, I said. No, but the image may still break the rule, Talia replied. Her correction cut both ways. She rejected Grant's inflation while refusing to protect me from the true part. I told the volunteers they were free to choose. Most crossed to Grant's side of the room. By the end, I had 4 active organizers left. Talia had my former team. Grant had the public moment, and their endorsement stood on the stage, meant for our future. I drove home to Eli's unfinished inventory. If he found a dated image after Noreen's warning, rebuilding my campaign would become the smaller problem. Saturday morning of week 1, Eli and I worked inside the reduced campaign office where most desks had left with Talia's volunteers. Eli checked printed pieces while I cleaned the campaign website. We removed station addresses, engine numbers, crew photographs, and uniform references. Each deletion felt both necessary and late. Eli held up a county fair flyer. "This one uses your chief title," he said. "The photograph is the problem." He placed the flyer beneath the desk lamp. I stood in full uniform beside Engine 2, with my campaign slogan across the district vehicle. The image had appeared on 600 flyers. It also remained in an online volunteer folder. I remembered the photograph. A campaign helper had taken it after a station tour. "That was background," I said. "The engine was already parked there." Eli looked at me without moving. "Would you accept that answer from a firefighter?" I removed the flyer from his hand. "No emergency was delayed." "That was not my question," Eli said. Eli was the foster son I had raised under those same rules. Good motives never created special permission. I had taught him that before he could drive. I opened the volunteer folder and deleted the image. Then I sent a removal request to every organizer who had access. "The photograph is gone," I said. "The act is not gone," Eli replied. I told him the district allowed employees to run for office. Eli tapped the engine in the picture. "It does not allow this," he said. "You used a district uniform and vehicle." "I am correcting it." "You are still calling it harmless context," Eli said. His words landed harder because they were exact. I wanted him to consider the affair, the lost volunteers, and Grant's advantage. None of those facts changed the photograph. Eli closed the image inventory. He had labeled every file and listed every person who received it. "I came to help you clean this up," he said. "I will not help you rename it." He unclipped his campaign badge and left it on the table. "Are you quitting over one photograph?" I asked. "I am quitting because you want one rule for your crew and another for yourself." Eli took his coat and walked out. He did not slam the door. The quiet made his choice feel permanent. I finished the removal requests alone. One copy had already reached Grant's campaign address before access was closed. Grant now had a photograph proving more than poor judgment. He had evidence for a neutrality complaint. I placed Eli's badge beside the returned keys from Talia. Then I wrote one sentence across the inventory cover. The uniform and engine should never have appeared in campaign material. It was the first honest line I had written that morning. It arrived after Eli had stopped accepting my words. Week 2 began Monday morning with Grant's formal complaint on Noreen Shaw's desk. Noreen was the district administrator handling my discipline. She placed the complaint between us in the headquarters conference room. Grant had attached the uniform photograph Eli found, along with the flyer's distribution list. "The district neutrality policy is plain," Noreen said. "No campaigning while on duty and no campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings." "I understand the policy," I said. "You understood it when this photograph was made," Noreen replied. "I asked to keep operational command during the review." Noreen folded her hands over the complaint. "What reason supports that request?" she asked. "The crews need one command structure," I said. "Removing me before findings could disrupt incident work." "Your captains already have command authority." "They do not have the chief's full authority," I replied. "That is why I am assigning it in writing." She slid a second page toward me. I remained chief for administrative purposes, but not at emergency scenes. Desk duty meant paid work without emergency scene command. I could review budgets, schedules, training records, and equipment requests. Crews would respond without me. "How long?" I asked. "Until the commission reviews the facts or new evidence requires another step," Noreen said. "Am I suspended?" "No," she said. "You remain on paid desk duty." That distinction gave me guarded relief. I still had my salary and title. I could also keep the campaign if every part stayed separate. Noreen pointed to the attached evidence. "Grant's personal conduct is not part of this review." I did not raise it. "You were about to," Noreen said. She knew me well enough to stop the argument early. I looked again at the photograph. The engine number was clear, as were my uniform badge and campaign slogan. "I removed the image Saturday," I said. "Removal limits further misuse," Noreen said. "It does not erase prior use." "What happens next?" I asked. "You have 3 days to certify complete separation," Noreen said. Noreen required a written inventory of campaign activity. It had to cover district time, property, uniforms, vehicles, buildings, accounts. and staff. If the separation is complete, does desk duty continue? I asked. The commission decides final discipline, Noreen said. I decide temporary restrictions. Her order followed the rule, the option, and the consequence. She had not tried to ruin me or protect me. I signed the desk duty notice. Through the conference room window, Engine 3 pulled onto the apron. A captain occupied the command seat I usually took. The crew left without looking toward the glass. I carried the complaint to my new desk. By Thursday morning, I had to certify every campaign channel. If I missed one photograph, password, room, or volunteer task, desk duty might become the least painful result. Monday evening, I carried Eli's organized binder into his repair workshop. The public door was locked, but he let me enter through the service bay. My usual chair sat across from his workbench. Eli had moved it against the far wall. He wiped grease from a steel ruler, then pointed toward an empty section of bench. I placed the binder there. I dismissed what you found, I said. I came to apologize. Eli opened the binder and turned it toward me. Colored tabs divided photographs, locations, dates, and distribution lists. I already gave you the work, he said. I came about us. You came because the complaint was filed, Eli replied. That is part of it, I said. It is the part with consequences for you, Eli answered. I stopped beside the empty chair. Sitting without his invitation would have made the visit worse. I should have listened Saturday, I said. Eli waited. I should not have called the photograph harmless. He waited again. The shop held an old truck, 2 stripped engines, and shelves of labeled parts. Eli had built order around machines other people abandoned. I had once admired that habit without seeing what it required. I used a district uniform and engine in campaign material, I said. That is one item, Eli replied. We also used station space for volunteer work. His face changed, though not toward forgiveness. Was anyone on duty? He asked. At times, I was. Then name that too, Eli said. I said I had allowed campaign activity too close to district work. Eli shook his head. Too close is not a rule. His demand was blunt, because mine had always been blunt. When Eli was younger, I never accepted almost honest. I asked whether we could still have dinner that week. No, Eli said. A phone call? No, he repeated. The refusal hurt more than his campaign resignation. He had separated family contact from my need for reassurance. When can I come back? I asked. When you can name every rule you broke without shrinking the words, Eli said. Eli pushed the binder across the bench. He had preserved every record, including copies that weakened my defense. He had destroyed nothing and hidden nothing. That was more care than I had shown the rules. I took the binder. The empty chair remained against the wall. Outside, I sat in my truck and opened to a blank inventory page. I wrote 2 headings, district property and duty time. Under them, I listed the uniform, engine 2, station rooms, and campaign conversations during work hours. Before I approached Eli again, the list had to become exact. An apology without that list would only ask my son to carry my comfort. Tuesday afternoon, I placed my inventory before Noreen in the district review room. She read the first page and pushed it back. Complete separation is not a promise, she said. It is a record. I listed every known image and location, I said. You wrote that campaign work will occur elsewhere, Noreen said. Where is elsewhere? I named the reduced field office and my home study. Who has access? Noreen asked. I added 4 remaining organizers and their key assignments. Noreen asked for schedules, account passwords, devices, storage boxes, mailing addresses, and the person responsible for each item. My proposed firewall had sounded firm when I wrote it. In practice, it meant complete separation of time, property, and people. I marked every campaign hour outside my district schedule. I also moved campaign files from my district phone and work computer. A volunteer would manage the field office whenever I was on duty. No district employee would receive campaign tasks through district channels. Noreen checked each line. Uniforms? She asked. Removed from all current material, I said. Vehicles? Removed, I answered. Buildings? Noreen asked. No campaign meetings or photographs at any district building. Duty time? No calls, messages, planning, or appearances while I am working, I said. She stopped at the image section. One entry lacked a removal date. The county newspaper had photographed a rural event near Station 4. Its archive remained outside my control. I requested removal, I said. Did the newspaper agree? Noreen asked. No. Then do not mark it resolved, she said. I changed the entry to pending. The old image might show only residence and campaign signs, but I could not remember its full frame. Noreen turned to the rural events page. My Wednesday visit on Route 6 still carried campaign branding. You scheduled this before the complaint, I said. That does not change where you stand now, Noreen replied. It is outside duty hours. Then attend as a candidate or as a resident, she said. Do not carry district authority into campaign work. I crossed out the photographer, signs, uniform shirt, and campaign handouts. What remains? Noreen asked. A hydrant survey with Omar, I said. That can remain if no district property or duty time supports it. I signed the corrected list. Each detail narrowed my room for excuses. Noreen kept one copy and returned one to me. You have until Thursday morning to certify these changes, she said. The newspaper archive must be checked first. I left with practical work instead of relief. Deletion alone would not settle anything. That evening, I removed branding from the Route 6 notice. I also asked the newspaper for the original photograph and publication date. The editor promised an archive check by morning. If that image showed station space after Noreen's warning, my new separation list would prove only that I acted after getting caught twice. Wednesday evening, I met Omar Ruiz along the Route 6 hydrant corridor. Omar was my rural precinct captain and a persistent advocate for neglected roads. He waited beside a faded hydrant near a gravel bend. I arrived in plain clothes and parked my personal truck away from the shoulder. I brought no signs, handouts, photographer, or campaign shirt. Omar looked into the empty truck bed. Where is the campaign display? He asked. There is not one, I said. Then why did you still come? Omar asked. To inspect what you showed me, I replied. He handed me a flashlight and walked toward the hydrant. We cleared weeds from its base and found the blue paint almost gone. At night, a tanker driver could miss it and continue past the turn. That delay could cost several minutes during a fire. Omar aimed the light at the ditch. A reflective marker would show above the grass, he said. Red for the hydrant, blue for the waterline. I measured the shoulder and wrote the location in my notebook. We drove to the north end of Heron Road. The second hydrant opened, but rusty water clouded the first bucket. Omar recorded the time. I recorded the flow problem and the nearest safe turnaround. Neither record carried my campaign name. At Quarry Route, brush hit another hydrant behind a sharp bend. Omar stood where an approaching driver would first see it. He would be past it before the brakes caught, he said. We need a marker before the curve. We need 3 markers, Omar said, 1 at each hydrant. I promised to submit the maintenance needs through the proper district process. I also offered to return as an unpaid resident if brush removal fell outside district staffing. Omar watched me write. You still owe dates for Bell Creek and the larger road list, he said. I know. You knew last month? Omar replied. That ended any hope of easy credit. One unbranded visit did not repair years of rural delay. My hand brushed my jacket pocket. I felt the campaign pin I had removed from my office coat. Then I remembered another pin in my station locker. It sat in a tray inches from my turnout gear. The separation list called all current material removed. That second pin had not entered my mind. I wrote it beneath the hydrant notes. Omar noticed. Another road? Another campaign item near district gear? I said. Go move it. I finished the 3 locations first. Useful work had begun without promotional value, and Omar had tested whether I would stay. He gave me no endorsement or photograph. He only confirmed the marker sizes. Before morning, I had to remove the forgotten pin and answer the newspaper. Omar still held his larger maps. I had earned 3 hydrant locations, not his trust. Thursday morning of week 2, I entered the county press room expecting to show correction. Instead, the newspaper displayed an enlarged archive photograph behind the lectern. Grant Pike, my former protege and election rival, stood beside it. He wore the calm expression he used before a prepared argument. The photograph showed me inside Station 4. Turnout coats hung behind my campaign table, and a campaign pin was clipped to one coat. The newspaper caption included the date. The image had been made 3 days after Noreen's written warning. My single mistake defense ended before I reached the microphone. Grant addressed the gathered press first. Chief Calder described 1 old photograph and 1 corrected error, he said. This image shows campaign use of station space after notice. After notice meant I had repeated the conduct after being warned. The phrase sounded formal, but the fact was simple. I had known the rule and crossed the line again. I stepped to the lectern. No engine was removed from service. No emergency response was delayed. Grant nodded. That is true, and my complaint does not claim otherwise. His restraint made the evidence stronger. He compared the station to a public trust placed behind a clear door. A candidate cannot borrow that trust for a photograph, he said. The comparison was polished, but this time it fit. I looked at the turnout coat in the image. The campaign pin sat near reflective trim meant to make firefighters visible at night. I had treated that gear as useful scenery. The written warning had told me to stop. I had allowed the rural event photograph anyway. I received the warning before this image was made, I said. The date is accurate. Grant glanced toward me. He had expected resistance, not admission. I explained that all campaign work was now separated from district time and property. That correction did not erase the repeated violation. My phone vibrated against the lectern. Noreen had sent a meeting notice for that afternoon. She would reconsider whether paid desk duty still protected the review. Suspension and lower pay had become likely. If you had been judging me that morning, would correction have mattered after a second violation? I could ask others for fairness, but I could no longer ask them to call repetition a single mistake. I removed the campaign pin from my pocket and closed my hand around it. The crews still needed stable leadership, even if that leadership no longer came from me. Before Noreen's decision, I had to prepare the captains for my possible removal. Grant had proved the complaint without using the affair or inventing an emergency. I left the press room carrying the separation list. For the first time, it felt less like a defense and more like evidence of how late I had become honest. Friday evening of week 3, every phone in the field office seemed occupied. The calls came from newspapers, radio producers, and volunteers. Each wanted my answer about the second station photograph. I stayed outside district property and used my campaign phone. That separation mattered, but it did not calm anyone. 2 volunteers had stopped knocking on doors. The county newspaper wanted to know whether I expected suspension, and I gave the same answer each time. Noreen has not issued that decision. I will follow the process. Omar arrived carrying a tube of rolled maps and set them beside my laptop. We planned Bell Creek tonight, he said. Omar meant the rural road meeting I had postponed before. He had marked hydrants, narrow turns, weak bridges, and missing address signs. I remember, I said. He looked at the phones. Do they know about Bell Creek? Not yet. They will not learn it from those calls. A radio producer needed my answer before his 7 o'clock broadcast. 3 precinct shifts remained uncovered for Saturday. Omar tapped the map tube. We need dates for Station 7's roads, he said. Heron Road was only one route. I can give you an hour after the radio call. The association members are waiting now. That made the choice plain. I could let the evening coverage run without me. Volunteers might hear Grant's account without any campaign response. Or I could leave the office and keep my second promise to Omar. I looked through the glass wall. 2 volunteers were listening to the radio producer describe the photograph. Fear chose for me before judgment could. I need to stay here tonight, I said. Let us move Bell Creek to Tuesday. Omar lifted the maps from my desk. Monday could change your district job, he said. Tuesday will bring another reason. This is not an excuse. No, Omar replied. It is a choice. He tucked the maps beneath his arm. I asked whether he would remain listed as my rural precinct captain through the weekend. Omar studied me for several seconds. I will decide before the Service Association meeting, he said. Do not print anything with my name until then. He left with every unanswered road still rolled inside that tube. The radio interview helped settle the volunteers. 2 agreed to cover Saturday shifts, and 1 donor restored a canceled event. Those small gains felt expensive. I had defended my campaign by neglecting the exact work that campaign promised. The affair had not made that choice. Grant had not made it either. At 7:40, I shut down the office and reviewed Noreen's notice. Her suspension meeting would begin Monday at 8. The first review had left me on paid desk duty. This meeting could remove even that limited authority. I prepared notes about the crews, open inspections, and command coverage. Then I opened Tuesday's calendar and saw another media request already waiting. Omar still had the maps. He also had the weekend to decide whether my name belonged beside his. Week 4 began Monday at 8 beside the district apparatus bay. Noreen Shaw waited at the administration threshold with a folder. She was the district administrator handling my discipline. Crews worked under the captains I had briefed. Am I permitted inside? I asked. For this meeting only, Noreen said. You may enter as an employee, not as acting command. We sat at the narrow table near the bay doors, and Noreen placed the written notice between us. I am suspending you from command duties, she said. This is temporary pending full commission review. Am I suspended from employment? No, Noreen said. You remain a district employee on non-command assignment. You will receive captain's pay during that period. You will hold no command authority. Captain's pay meant a cut from my chief's salary. It also meant every order belonged to someone else. I read the effective time. The change had begun at 8 that morning. I can still manage schedules from the desk, I said. The crews need continuity. The crews need a clear chain of command. I can advise the captains without appearing at public events. Noreen folded her hands. This is no longer about public appearance alone. The post-warning photograph showed repeated use of district property. I admitted that. Admission helps the review. It does not preserve command. Her tone stayed level. She did not sound pleased or angry. Noreen stated the rule again. There could be no campaigning while on duty. Campaigns also could not use district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. I had broken that boundary after written notice. The full commission will decide any permanent rank change, she said. I am imposing only the temporary restriction allowed before review. So I could return as chief. You could. The commission could also move you permanently from chief to captain. The bay door rose behind us, and an engine returned from a medical call across the threshold. No campaign sign touched it. No photographer waited beside it. That sight carried more judgment than Grant's speeches. Noreen gave me the crew notice. It said I remained employed but could not direct incidents, staffing, training, or station operations. You may tell them yourself, she said. I will remain present. I stood near the bay floor line and read the notice to each shift. I did not add a defense. The captains acknowledged the change. No one asked me to explain the affair or the election. Those matters did not control their safety. Afterward, I removed the chief's command board from my office wall. Noreen locked it in the administration cabinet. My campaign office expected me by noon. My bank expected the same mortgage payment next month. I left through the public entrance carrying a revised pay sheet. Separation had begun as campaign damage control. Now it had to become a standard I followed when nobody offered credit. Monday evening, I drove to Eli Mercer's workshop. Eli was the foster son I had raised under those same rules. He had quit my campaign after finding the uniform and engine photograph. A gate leaned against the far wall, and I remained outside the doorway. I came to tell you about the district decision, I said. Eli wiped his hands on a towel but did not invite me inside. They suspended me from command, I continued. I am still employed, but I have no authority. I am also on captain's pay. He nodded. When does the commission decide the permanent result? In 2 weeks, I said. Can you appeal? If they demote me, yes. I did not ask him to return to the campaign. Eli reached into his workbench drawer. He removed my spare house key and placed it on the concrete between us. Talia had returned her key when she ended our engagement. That act had closed a shared home after her betrayal. Eli's key meant something different. He was not betraying me. He was refusing easy access, while I still defended special treatment. You do not need to return that, I said. Yes, I do. I never used it to pressure you. You used the door both ways, Eli replied. You come over and talk like we are fine. Then you explain why your case is different. The suspension is not different. The suspension is procedure. Noreen made that choice. I looked through the doorway at the gate he had built. Every joint was square because he had measured before welding. I accepted her decision, I said. You had no power to reject it. I could make it ugly. That is still about what you could get away with, Eli said. His words stripped the last comfort from my cooperation. I had treated calm compliance as proof of change. Eli saw it as the minimum owed by any employee. What would count? I asked. He crossed his arms. What will you surrender when nobody can force you? I thought of the commission appeal. I also thought of the campaign and Grant's personnel history. I had not yet decided to surrender either weapon. I do not have an answer tonight, I said. Then do not bring another apology. He turned off the work light nearest the door. The darker doorway became a boundary I could not cross by claiming fatherhood. I closed my hand around the spare key. Losing Talia's key had marked the end of our engagement. Losing Eli's marked a condition I still had a chance to meet. He wanted an unforced ethical choice. Until I made one, discipline would remain something done to me, not something I had accepted. Wednesday morning of week 4, Noreen met me in the commission review room. Noreen kept the recorder off while she explained the schedule. She handed me notice of 2 allegations: the uniform and engine campaign photograph and campaign material inside Station 4. The commission will review 2 post-warning violations, she said. Both images had been made after I received written warning. I thought the suspension would end after the election, I said. The election does not control district employment. If I lose, the campaign conflict disappears. The past conduct does not disappear, Noreen said evenly. I read the possible outcomes. They ranged from written discipline to permanent demotion. Demotion means a permanent move from chief to captain, Noreen said. It includes captain's duties and captain's pay. Could the commission restore me later? It could consider you for a future opening. This process will not promise that result. I asked for the narrowest lawful path back to command. You received notice today, Noreen said. You may review the evidence and submit a response. The commission then hears the facts and makes findings. If the findings go against me, you may appeal, Noreen said plainly. She explained appeal at once. It meant requesting another employment review, not a courtroom trial, and it did not erase the first findings. Would an appeal keep me chief during review? I asked. No. Your temporary restrictions remain, unless the commission changes them. Noreen turned on the recorder, and I confirmed that I had received notice and understood the schedule. She did not ask about Talia or Grant. The affair had no place in the employment record. Only my conduct belonged there. After the short recorded portion, Noreen returned my copy. Your campaign may continue, she said. The same boundary remains in force. No campaigning while on duty, I said. No campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. That is correct. My phone showed a campaign deadline at noon. The Rural Service Association wanted its final questionnaire before Thursday's endorsement meeting. The unfinished answers covered Station 7, Bell Creek, and the Quarry Route hydrants. Talia knew every promise I had postponed. She also knew the order we planned to present them. Grant could reach the association with my own strategy before I arrived. I gathered the commission papers and kept them separate from the campaign folder. Winning office could not save my rank. Losing office could not settle the discipline. By noon, I needed honest dates for rural work I had delayed. If I offered another polished promise, Omar's unanswered maps would expose it. Thursday evening, I entered the Rural Service Association Hall with a revised plan. The plan listed inspections, marker costs, and public reporting dates. I had removed every photograph tied to district property. Talia Voss, my former fiancée and campaign manager, stood near Grant's display table. Grant Pike, my former protege and election rival, arranged handouts beside her. Talia read one last line over his shoulder. Change failed response to failed attention, she said. No emergency response was interrupted. Grant considered the phrase, then marked the page. Failed attention is still accurate, he said. It is also supportable, Talia replied. Her correction was quiet, but I heard it. Grant had tested a larger comparison and accepted the narrower wording. Then I saw the heading on his handout. Rural Readiness in 3 Steps. I had written those words months earlier. Below them sat Bell Creek, Heron Road, and Quarry Route in my chosen order. The marker costs followed my private campaign notes. Talia had possessed those files while managing my campaign. She had taken no district record and invented no service failure. She had given Grant strategic access I once trusted her to hold. The association members read his version first. Grant began his presentation with the missed meetings. Rural service deserves dates, not seasonal attention, he said. These routes have waited while Chief Calder promised another review. He cited my postponed Bell Creek visit and the unanswered road maps. Every point was true. When my turn came, I described the 3 hydrants Omar and I had inspected. I gave exact costs for reflective markers and brush removal. I also admitted that those steps had begun late. My revised dates are in the plan, I said. You should judge them against my record. I held up Grant's handout. The wording and route order came from my campaign files. Grant did not deny it. Talia had lawful access while she managed your campaign, he said. The roads did not become yours because you postponed them first. His answer was polished and cruel. It was also difficult to dispute. I could prove private access, but I could not claim ownership of neglected roads. The association collected its ballots. Members counted them while we waited. Grant won the endorsement by 9 votes. The result gave him the association mailing list, meeting support, and volunteer introductions across rural precincts. My revised plan remained accurate. It had simply arrived after my credibility. Talia packed the Grant handouts. You had the material, I told her. You knew what those promises meant. I also knew how long they had waited, she said. She left beside Grant, carrying the same route order I had failed to honor. Omar's name did not appear on the endorsement notice. He still had to decide whether sympathy for me outweighed 2 canceled meetings and a tube of unanswered maps. Friday evening marked the Week 5 midpoint of the campaign. The county radio forum posted polling before my segment. Grant held 38%, I held 34%, and Jan Bell held 28%. Jan was the existing 3rd candidate on the ballot. In a 3-way race, a candidate could win by plurality. That meant receiving the largest share, even below half. I still had a path, but it had narrowed. Jan had completed her segment earlier. Grant and I sat at microphones while Talia watched from his side table. The question concerned rural service. Grant cited the association endorsement and my canceled Bell Creek meeting. Then he turned to the district photographs. A public engine is not campaign furniture, he said. Using its image resembles borrowing public equipment for private advantage. The comparison stretched the facts, but remained near the complaint. I answered with the boundary. No campaign work now occurs on duty or inside district buildings. My campaign uses no district uniforms or vehicles. The host moved us to a break. Talia leaned toward Grant before his microphone went live again. Do not imply the engine left service, she said. It did not. Grant lowered his notes. The image borrowed public trust, he said. The equipment itself remained available. That correction mattered. Until then, I had assumed Grant would stay within the true complaint. He had gained more by being exact than by attacking harder. Now I had heard him test a broader accusation. Talia had pulled him back before it reached the air. Her correction showed she knew the difference between misuse of imagery and interrupted service. The next question asked how each candidate would fund rural safety work. I described reflective hydrant markers and public route reports. I stated that the inspections would continue without campaign branding. Grant returned to my record. A plan announced after an endorsement loss is not leadership, he said. It is reaction. He was right about the timing. I argued that useful work still mattered after political credit disappeared. My answer stopped the polling decline during the listener survey, but it did not restore the lost ground. The final numbers remained close. Grant led, while Jan held enough support to prevent either of us from approaching half. After the broadcast, Talia gathered Grant's notes. You corrected him, I said. I corrected a claim the evidence does not support. Will you keep doing that? Her eyes stayed on the papers. I will keep the campaign accurate. Grant heard us and stepped closer. Accuracy includes the use of district property, he said. Yes, I replied. It also includes the fact that no engine missed a call. He smiled without answering, and that silence left me wary. The true complaint had cost me command, pay, and rural support. Grant no longer needed a larger charge, but the numbers gave him reason to seek one. My phone displayed a message from Omar. He had finished reviewing the road maps and my latest cancellation. He would announce his position Saturday morning. Week 5 reached Saturday morning while I remained suspended from fire command. I unlocked my campaign field office and found Omar waiting outside. Omar Ruiz had been my rural precinct captain. He carried the tube holding his road maps. He entered and placed his campaign badge beside my forgotten speech cards. Omar aimed his phone at the banner. You are announcing this publicly, I said. I am preventing campaigns from explaining it for me, Omar replied. I moved between him and the phone. Stay precinct captain until we settle the service dispute, I said. Give me 1 week. You already had 5 weeks, Omar said. He opened the tube and spread 3 maps across my table. Every unanswered note carried a date. I delivered these on March 28th, he said. Heron Road needed an inspection schedule. His finger moved to a mark. You canceled the April 12th meeting there, Omar said. You went to a donor lunch instead. That lunch funded the marker plan, I said. The residents did not meet your funding plan, he replied. They met another empty chair. He tapped Bell Creek Road. I had canceled its May 3rd walk for radio preparation. I should have called you, I said. You should have called the people waiting beside those hydrants, Omar replied. He turned to Quarry Route, where 6 handwritten questions filled the lower edge. I had answered none of them. What did Grant promise you? I asked. Omar's hand stopped. That question is why I cannot stay, he said. He started the phone recording. My name is Omar Ruiz, he said. I resigned as West Calder's rural precinct captain. He named Heron Road, Bell Creek Road, and Quarry Route. He also gave both canceled meeting dates. Then he addressed Grant through the recording. Grant Pike's campaign did not recruit me, Omar said. Nobody bought my support or purchased my silence. Omar ended the recording and posted it. The first response appeared before he lowered the phone. This is not about Talia, he told me. It is not about who kissed whom. I looked at the maps. It is about neglect, I said. Yes, Omar replied. Yours. The words landed harder because Omar had protected me from a false story. He would not let Grant claim him as a purchase. He also would not let me use betrayal as an excuse. I asked whether he planned to join Grant. I am independent, Omar said. That is all either campaign gets. He collected his maps but left the badge on my table. Without Omar, I lost volunteer drivers, farm contacts, and 3 polling place teams. He paused at the door. If you want rural trust, do rural work, Omar said. If you want revenge, answer Grant. Then he left, and his public resignation began moving through county feeds. I stared at the speech cards beside his abandoned badge. Grant had my former campaign manager and the service group endorsement. Now I had to choose between useful work and retaliation. Week 6 began Monday morning while I remained suspended from fire command. I also received lower non-command pay. Noreen met me at district headquarters for building access. She carried my separation list. Noreen Shaw was the district administrator handling my discipline. She had marked every incomplete item. We began with my command locker. My turnout coat hung inside, and a campaign pin still clung near its upper pocket. It had survived 2 cleanouts because I had treated it as harmless. I removed it, revealing a pale circle in the cloth. That goes outside, Noreen said. I placed it in a campaign box in the parking lot. We checked the district calendar. I removed campaign events from every view connected to my work account. No crew member would receive political reminders from a district system. I deleted the campaign number from the station contact sheet. I also removed a candidate photograph from a community display. Blank campaign envelopes sat beneath a training binder. I carried them across the front entrance. Each trip made the boundary harder to ignore. At the threshold, I posted a notice. No campaign material or activity beyond this door. The policy remains simple, Noreen said. No campaigning while on duty. She pointed toward the engine floor. No campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings, Noreen continued. I understand, I said. Your option is private time, clothing, and property, she said. Another overlap may become a new violation. I signed the separation list, then built 2 schedules. One showed district access approved by Noreen. The other covered campaign work outside paid hours. The pages shared no time blocks. Convenience had caused several excuses. A quick photograph became a campaign image, while a station conversation became volunteer planning. A campaign pin became part of turnout gear. I had called each overlap small, but together they formed a practice. Noreen checked the final boxes. This now governs conduct, she said. It is not just corrective paperwork. That is the point, I replied. She returned 1 copy and kept the signed original. At the entrance, I stopped with 1 foot on each side. The black threshold strip ran between my boots. I stepped outside before opening my campaign messages. The alert promoted Grant's radio appearance. He planned to compare my imagery violations with removing public equipment from residents. I sent Eli a photograph of the posted boundary and the separation list. I did not ask him to forgive me. I asked only whether the work met the standard. The pin stayed in the parking lot box, and the turnout coat stayed inside. For the first time, the station line controlled my habits instead of decorating my promises. Monday evening, I carried the separation list into Eli's workshop office. Eli Mercer was the foster son I had raised under those same rules. He remained unwilling to work on my campaign. He studied the pages. "I am asking one question," I said. "Does this meet the standard?" Eli checked the separate calendars, then read the station notice. He examined the photograph of my bare turnout coat. "It meets the written standard," he said. "Does that answer your concern?" I asked. "No," Eli replied. "It answers your question." He slid the pages back. "Grant is stretching the complaint," I said. "That does not shrink your violation," Eli replied. He reached for a small radio near his tool cabinet. "Listen to what he aired this afternoon," Eli said. He pressed a button. Grant Pike, my former protege and election rival, spoke through the recorded broadcast. "When a chief puts a public engine into campaign material, residents lose part of that engine," Grant said. "It resembles taking emergency equipment away and lending it to your own ambition." Eli stopped the recording. "That did not happen," I said. "The engine remained available." "I know," Eli replied. "Talia corrected that comparison during the forum," I said. "I heard her," Eli answered. "Grant knows the difference," I said. Eli folded his arms. "So do you," he replied. "His exaggeration does not erase your photographs." My campaign signs filled my truck. Grant's comparison still used the language of resemblance. He had not claimed an engine missed an emergency. The distance between those claims had become dangerously short. "He was denied a promotion while I was chief," I said. Eli watched my face. "Are you about to tell me why?" he asked. "No," I said. "Then why mention it?" Eli asked. A printer had reserved a Wednesday mailing slot, and an attack draft waited in my campaign case. The draft said Grant had failed a leadership review. Details from his confidential employment history could make that claim hurt. I knew those details because I had supervised him. I did not know whether I could use them as a candidate. Eli placed a steel ruler against a cutboard. "You taught me that private records stay private," he said. "I also taught you to answer an attack," I replied. "With facts you are allowed to use," Eli said. He marked the board and returned the ruler to its hook. I gathered my separation pages. "You are not coming back to the campaign," I said. "No," Eli replied. "Even after this?" I asked. "This is what you should have done before I left," he said. His answer was blunt, but carried no contempt. That almost made it harder. Outside, Grant's radio words replayed in my head. He was moving from a true complaint toward a false emergency claim. The sealed promotion file could damage him before that happened. I had until Wednesday night to choose. Tuesday afternoon, I met Noreen in the district records office. A sealed duplicate of Grant's promotion file remained in my command safe. I had kept it there while chairing his review. Noreen had ordered the packet returned by Wednesday night. "I need a direct answer," I said. "What employment material may I use in the campaign?" "None from that file," Noreen replied. "What if I remember the review without opening it?" I asked. "Your memory came from your position as chief," she said. She placed a return form between us. "Confidential means private employment information barred from campaign use," Noreen explained. "The rule covers the paper and what you learned from it." Grant had blamed me for blocking his promotion. His version omitted concerns raised during the review. Those concerns involved judgment and command readiness. They would fit inside my mailer. "Grant made the promotion part of his political story," I said. "That does not make his private file public," Noreen replied. "What can I say?" I asked. "You may use public statements, public records, and your campaign conduct," she said. "You may also say that personnel rules prevent a fuller response," Noreen continued. "That sounds like I am hiding behind the district," I said. "It is still your lawful option," Noreen replied. "And the consequence if I use the details?" I asked. "You create a new boundary violation," she said. "The commission could consider it during final discipline." Her answer gave me the rule, option, and cost. I could not later claim confusion. I signed the return form, but left the line blank. That line required the packet's return time. "The file never leaves district property," Noreen said. "It will not," I replied. "You may retrieve it only to return it," she said. "Do not open, copy, or discuss its contents." "I understand," I said. She closed the records window, and my phone showed the printer's deadline. The deposit had paid for paper, design, and reserved press time. Canceling would leave most of that money gone. Finishing might move rural voters toward me. The choice felt practical until I pictured Eli's steel ruler. Before I left, another message appeared. Omar had agreed to breakfast Wednesday at the Rural Highway Diner. He promised to bring the maps, but offered no promise of support. That opening lifted me more than it should have. I could apologize with dates, roads, and missed calls. I could ask him to resume precinct work. If he refused, the promotion mailer would still be waiting. I left knowing exactly where the line stood. Using the sealed file would be a fresh choice. Wednesday morning, Omar sat in a rear booth at the Rural Highway Diner. The map tube rested beside his coffee with my old precinct badge lying on top. I ordered coffee. I canceled the April 12th Heron Road meeting for a donor lunch, I said. Omar watched me. I canceled the May 3rd Bell Creek walk for radio preparation, I continued. I did not call the waiting residents. You delivered the maps on March 28th, I said. I left 6 quarry route questions unanswered. Yes, Omar replied. I treated rural time as expendable, I said. I was wrong. Omar opened the tube. That name's what happened, he said. It does not hire me back. I know, I replied. I am still asking you to return as precinct captain. He spread the maps across the table. Red circles marked hydrants, while blue lines marked tanker routes from the North Station. The Bell Creek hydrant, near the Danner farm, had waited 4 months. Brush covered its marker. On Heron Road, 2 faded posts disappeared against a tree line. The hydrant on Quarry Route lacked a reflective marker. These were not campaign suggestions, Omar said. They were service requests. I treated them like campaign scheduling, I replied. You treated them like votes that would wait, Omar said. His finger moved down the Bell Creek route. Each note showed a call, message, or canceled meeting. The maps were not scattered complaints. They formed an ordered record of neglect. I accept your apology as specific, Omar said. That is all I accept today. You will not resume precinct work, I said. No, Omar replied. The answer was clean and carried none of the anger I had expected. Will you give me copies for inspections? I asked. Not for a campaign tour, he said. For unpaid work outside duty hours, I replied. Omar rolled the maps halfway closed. If you begin without signs, speeches, or district property, call me again, he said. I will decide then. That was neither forgiveness nor support. It was a test with terms. I wrote the first route order on a napkin. Bell Creek, Heron Road, Quarry Route. Do not turn that napkin into a promise card, he said. I will not, I replied. He stood. Grant did not buy my resignation, Omar said. Do not answer him by selling someone's private record. I did not mention the file, I said. You mentioned his promotion often enough before this race, Omar replied. People can see where your hand is reaching. He tucked the maps and left the precinct badge beside my coffee. My apology had reached him but recovered nothing. The disappointment felt cleaner than suspicion. I no longer had to guess why he left. By nightfall, I had to choose whether Grant's confidential history would enter hundreds of mailboxes. Wednesday night, I parked outside district headquarters with the attack draft on my passenger seat. The printer needed approval before 10. My deposit had become campaign debt. Across the lot, the station entrance displayed my new boundary notice. Its letters caught the outside light. I left the draft inside my truck. My access key opened the exterior door. I crossed the threshold carrying no campaign material. The building felt different without my command authority. My name remained on labels, but decisions belonged to others. I entered my office and opened the command safe. Grant's sealed promotion packet sat behind the book. The envelope listed his name, review date, and my title. I knew the contents without breaking the seal. The file contained concerns that would sound decisive in a mailer. Voters would not hear Grant's response. They would only hear that his former chief had records. I lifted the packet and locked the safe. Then I carried it toward the records office. At the station threshold, I stopped. My truck waited outside with the attack. The private file remained inside with me. The line beneath my boots separated both kinds of property. I continued to the records slot, signed the return line, and wrote the time. Then I pushed the sealed packet through. It landed beyond my reach. Outside, I opened the campaign case on my passenger seat. The printer's proof carried a heading, "What Grant Pike Never Told You." Beneath it, the draft described a failed promotion review. Blank spaces waited for details from the file. I had paid for design, paper, and a mailing list. Canceling meant losing $2,600. I opened my email and sent one sentence to the printer. "Cancel the mailing and keep the deposit owed," I wrote. No one had forced that loss. It bought no votes and repaired no violation. I tore the approval line from the proof. I found one recovered speech card from the night I saw Talia kiss Grant. The front held an applause line about public trust. I turned it over. No private file, I told myself. I wrote those words on the back. The card joined my forum notes instead of the discarded mailer. It no longer carried a promise designed for applause. It carried something I would have to admit. A copy of Grant's flyer waited beneath the attack proof. Rural supporters had begun receiving it that afternoon. The flyer showed my uniform photograph and the engine image made after Noreen's warning. Its central claims were true. Grant said I had used district trust for political gain. He did not claim that an engine missed an emergency. I now had no private smear to place beside his public evidence. I closed the campaign case and looked toward the station entrance. The threshold had cost me money, leverage, and an answer. It had also held. Week 7, Monday afternoon, Grant's flyer reached rural mailboxes. Omar met me beside Route 6, where 3 hydrants lacked visible markers. He carried copies residents had given him. We walked the shoulder while I read every panel. The first panel dated the campaign photograph showing me in uniform beside Engine 2. The second dated the Station 4 photograph, made 3 days after Noreen warned me in writing. It showed my campaign table inside the station. Turnout coats hung behind it, with a campaign pin on one coat. Both dates were correct. District rules allowed me to run for office but barred campaigning while on duty. They also barred campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. I had broken that rule twice. Grant's final panel compared my use of Engine 2's image to removing equipment from public service. He did not claim an emergency had been missed. The comparison felt polished and severe. Grant, my former protege and election rival, could make a narrow fact sound broad. I could say the engine remained ready. I could not call the photograph proper. Omar stopped near a hydrant hidden beyond a cedar trunk. "What will you tell people?" he asked. "That both campaign uses violated policy," I replied. "The engine never left service, and both facts matter." "You cannot deny the violations to answer the comparison," Omar said. "I will not." I kept my phone down because this was no campaign video. Omar watched me measure the distance from the road. Eastbound drivers would pass the hydrant before seeing it. Westbound drivers had no marker. We passed Grant's flyers on the way to Mills Spur. I did not touch them. My defense depended on Grant becoming cruel enough to discredit every charge. His printed facts ended that hope. I called my volunteer coordinator. "If voters ask, confirm both policy violations," I said. "Do not call the flyer a lie." Omar waited until I ended the call. "That will cost you," he said. "It should cost me more than denial does." Omar removed a folded sheet from his map tube. "This arrived after the mailed version," he said. "Grant wants it used at tomorrow's civic interview." The top carried the same engine photograph. A new paragraph covered the lower panel. Below it sat a narrow approval strip bearing Omar's name. "You asked me to answer what voters received," Omar said. "Now inspect what Grant wants them to receive next." He kept the wording beneath his hand. "Is the claim stronger?" I asked. "Yes," Omar replied. "Is it true?" "That is why I brought it," he said. The truthful flyer remained under his arm. The revised draft waited between us. I had accepted what Grant could prove. By Tuesday morning, I had to separate that proof from whatever he had added. Tuesday morning, Omar met me in the county radio lobby before the civic interview. He placed Grant's revised flyer on a low table. Grant, my former protege and election rival, had turned the engine comparison into an event. The added sentence read, "Chief Calder diverted an engine from an emergency call to promote his campaign." That never happened. No engine was diverted, and no response was delayed or missed. A dark line crossed the sentence. Beside it, Talia had written, "False. The engine remained in service. Delete." Talia, my former fiancée, now managed Grant's campaign. I knew her square handwriting. The flyer itself showed the dispute. There was no recording, hidden file, or secret witness. "When did Talia mark it?" I asked. "Last night," Omar replied. "Grant brought me the proof afterward." "He left her correction visible?" "He called it caution from a campaign manager," Omar said. Omar pointed to the approval strip below the new claim. It read, "Reviewed and approved by Omar Ruiz, Rural Service Advocate." "Did you approve any version?" I asked. "The mailed version, but not this one," he replied. "What did Grant ask you to do?" "He asked me to sign beneath the new paragraph," Omar said. "He called it the practical meaning of your violation." I reread the claim. My campaign uses violated policy, but the emergency claim invented an act. "You could use this against him," Omar said. "I could," I replied. "You sound careful." "I wanted his whole complaint to become false," I said. "It did not." Omar studied me. "What will you say if the interviewer asks?" "I broke the neutrality rule twice," I replied. "Grant added an emergency that never occurred." "And Talia?" "She corrected that sentence, but it does not excuse my conduct." The lobby clock neared the interview. Omar lifted the draft by its approval strip. Grant had tried to borrow Omar's rural standing for the stronger claim. Omar gripped the strip and tore it away. The rip crossed his name, but left the false paragraph intact. It showed what he refused to approve. "I endorsed Grant because his complaint was true," Omar said. "He thinks that endorsement belongs to him now." "It belongs to your judgment." "I will make my own statement tonight," he said. "Will you endorse me again?" "No," Omar replied. The answer stopped my hope. Omar folded the torn strip into his pocket and kept the corrected draft flat. "I can withdraw from Grant without returning to you," he said. "Yes." The false addition gave me dangerous relief. It also offered an easy hiding place. Before Omar spoke publicly, I had to resist using Grant's lie to erase my violations. Tuesday evening, Omar stood outside Grant's field office before a small sidewalk crowd. I remained near the curb without signs, volunteers, or campaign clothing. Grant, my former protege and election rival, came through the office door calmly. "Omar, we can settle a drafting dispute inside," Grant said. Omar held up the revised flyer. "This is not private," he replied. "My name was placed beneath a false claim." Grant moved beside him without touching the page. "The language was an unfinished comparison," Grant said. "It described the risk of turning emergency equipment into political property." "It described an emergency call," Omar replied. "No such call was missed. The sentence never reached voters." "You still pressed me to approve it," Omar said. Omar displayed the torn strip. Half his name remained beneath the ragged edge. The crowd could see Talia's dark correction across the false sentence. Omar spoke without raising his voice. "Wes Calder broke district policy twice," he said. "He approved a campaign photograph showing him in uniform beside Engine 2. Faces turned toward me. "After written warning, he allowed campaign activity inside Station 4, Omar continued. "Those violations happened." Grant nodded as if Omar had returned to the plan. Omar raised the torn strip. "Grant Pike filed a valid complaint about those acts," he said. "He later asked me to approve a false claim." Omar pointed toward the added sentence. "It says West diverted an engine from an emergency," he continued. "That never happened." Grant's calm expression tightened. "We should preserve unity on rural service," he said. "One disputed comparison should not bury months of real evidence." "Truth does not become flexible because other evidence is real," Omar replied. He turned toward the office window. "I withdraw my endorsement of Grant Pike," Omar said. "I am not endorsing Wes Calder." Grant lost Omar's approval, but I did not gain it. A curbside question asked whether I would demand Grant leave the race. "No," I said. "His false addition does not cancel my violations. Omar's statement belongs to Omar." Grant looked at me. "You are treating a rejected draft like a public act," he said. "You asked for Omar's public approval," I replied. "He chose to show what he refused." I stepped back toward my truck. Omar remained before the crowd and named Route 6, Route 12, and Mills Spur. The story returned to hidden hydrants and unanswered maps. I left before anyone could place my sign behind Omar. Grant's pressure had broken his rural momentum. My restraint restored nothing I had lost. Talia's correction now stood in public view. She had protected the truth without protecting me. The next civic interview would force her to address Grant's explanation. Soon afterward, I would face the commission without knowing the electoral effect. Wednesday afternoon, Talia sat across from me in the county civic radio studio. Talia was my former fiancée and campaign manager. She now managed Grant's campaign and remained his partner. The station arranged a response segment. Prompt cards lay between our microphones. The first card asked whether Grant's original complaint remained valid. Yes, Talia said. Wes approved a campaign photograph showing him in uniform beside an engine. She kept her eyes on the microphone. After written warning, he also allowed campaign activity inside Station 4, she continued. I knew about both acts. I agree, I replied. The complaint rests on facts. The second card asked about the revised flyer. Talia placed a copy on the table. I rejected the emergency sentence, she said. No engine was diverted from any call. You wrote the correction Omar displayed, I said. I did, Talia replied. Did Grant know the sentence was false? He knew there was no diverted engine, she said. He called the sentence a comparison. Her voice stayed precise. It offered no anger for me to borrow. I told him comparisons cannot invent events, she continued. I marked it for deletion. The broadcast light remained on beyond the glass. Your correction does not clear me, I said. No, Talia replied. You still broke the rule. And Grant still filed a valid complaint? Yes. Both truths shared the table without canceling each other. Since the kiss, I had treated Talia as one fixed role. Betrayer was accurate, but it did not describe every choice she could make. She had helped Grant use my neglected rural promises, yet she refused to give him a false emergency. I am not doing this for you, she said. I understand. I will finish this election with Grant, Talia said. Afterward, I am reconsidering campaign work. Are you leaving him? No, she replied. Her answer offered no opening or reconciliation. Talia gathered her flyer. Grant wanted vindication, she said. The complaint gave him enough, but he reached for more. I wanted the same thing when I considered his personnel record. You canceled that mailing, she replied. Yes, but that does not restore the months before it. No, Talia said. The broadcast light went dark. Talia left without giving a campaign speech. I remained until a station worker slid an envelope through the message slot. The Full Fire Commission had issued my hearing notice for the next Monday afternoon. It would consider the uniform and engine photograph and the post-warning Station 4 campaign use. The notice did not mention Talia's affair or Grant's false sentence. Those belonged to the election and our broken relationships, not employment evidence. Before the hearing, Omar had offered Saturday's route inspection. It could not improve my position before the commission or on the ballot. For the first time, that seemed like a reason to do it. Week 8 had begun Wednesday. By Saturday morning, my campaign shirts stayed locked in the truck. Omar met me at the Route 6 junction with his maps, a ruler, and orange marking flags. I wore plain jeans and a gray work shirt. I had no campaign pin, district uniform, or candidate logo. We were unpaid residents documenting access problems. We would not open hydrants or claim district authority. Omar unfolded the first map across his hood. Route 6 first, he said. Then Route 12 and Mill Spur. His red circles determined our order. Each marked a hydrant crews could miss from the road. The first hydrant stood behind tall weeds and a rusted fence post. Its old marker had faded white. I measured the space beside the ditch. A marker needs to be visible from both directions, Omar said. And high enough to clear summer growth, I replied. Reflective markers were roadside guides. Their bright surfaces helped crews find hydrants quickly, especially at night. We recorded the distance from the road, post height, and safe shoulder width. At Route 12, a property owner watched from a porch. I gave no speech and left no campaign card. My phone showed 6 missed campaign calls, but I kept it in my pocket. My reduced income hurt. The canceled attack mailing remained debt, and election bills kept arriving. None of that changed the measurements. On Mill Spur, brush covered a hydrant near a sharp bend. An engine could pass before its crew saw the cap. Omar held the ruler while I cleared only enough grass to read the number. Do not make this look like a rescue tour, he said. I brought no camera. You brought a candidate's name, Omar replied. I cannot leave that in the truck. No, he said. You can decide what the work serves. We measured a blank sample marker against the roadside posts. It was 12 inches wide and 24 inches tall. My corrugated campaign signs could be cut to that size. Their printed faces would need covering. Reflective strips could turn each piece into a visible guide. I wrote the dimensions on the back of Omar's route list. The idea did not recover the sign's cost, but it gave their material another use. If you live on a rural road, check whether drivers can see the nearest hydrant marker from both directions. Report hidden or faded markers through your local fire district's regular public number. By noon, we had documented 11 marker needs. Omar signed the route sheet only as a resident witness. He neither restored his endorsement nor joined my campaign. You did the work without asking for votes, he said. I still wanted them. Wanting is not the same as asking, Omar replied. That was the closest thing to approval he offered. I returned his ruler, but he pushed it back across the hood. Keep it until the markers are cut, he said. The commission would issue its finding Monday near the end of week 8. Permanent demotion could follow. I drove home without campaign footage. 11 measurements and Omar's ruler rested beside the unused signs. The work had become useful after it stopped, depending on my victory. Monday afternoon brought week 8 near its close on my campaign calendar. Noreen waited in the full fire commission meeting room after the members completed their review. Noreen, the district administrator handling my discipline, had a signed finding before her. 2 empty chairs separated us. She did not soften her first sentence. The commission sustained 2 violations, she said. I asked her to state them aloud. You approved a campaign photograph showing your district uniform and engine too, Noreen said. She turned to the second finding. After written warning, you allowed campaign material and activity inside Station 4. The rule was plain. There could be no campaigning while on duty. There could also be no campaign use of district uniforms, vehicles, or buildings. The commission found no engine left service, she continued. It found no delayed response or missed emergency. Did Grant's revised flyer enter the review? I asked. No, Noreen replied. His false wording was not employment evidence. Talia's affair? Your personal relationship was not employment evidence either, she said. The findings stayed within the boundary they were meant to judge. Noreen turned to the final page. The commission imposed permanent demotion from chief to captain, she said. Captain remained a working firefighter rank with less authority and lower pay than chief. The district was not firing me. It was removing my command because I repeated a violation after warning. When does the demotion begin? I asked. After the appeal period ends, unless you appeal, Noreen replied. She slid a second paper toward me. You have 48 hours, she said. An appeal asks the commission to review the finding or penalty again. Would I remain suspended during that review? Yes, Noreen said. The temporary pay assignment would continue. Noreen gave me the rule, option, and consequence without urging any choice. I read the evidence list. It included the uniform and engine photograph, the Station 4 photograph, and her written warning. It excluded the kiss, the campaign defections, and Grant's overreach. You treated the photograph and the Station 4 use as separate acts, I said. Yes, Noreen replied. The Station 4 photograph confirmed repetition after notice. I had hoped desk duty meant limited discipline. The later evidence had ended that defense. Was permanent demotion within the normal range? I asked. Yes, she said. Firing was available but not imposed. Another written warning was no longer proportionate. The answer hurt because it was measured. Noreen had neither protected my rank nor used the election to ruin me. I signed only the receipt line. That confirmed delivery without accepting the decision or waiving an appeal. My appeal deadline fell Wednesday afternoon. The election withdrawal deadline had already passed. My printed name would remain on every ballot if I stopped campaigning. 3 candidates remained listed, Grant Pike, Jan Bell, and me. The winner needed more votes than either opponent, not a majority. I placed the finding inside my campaign case beside the recovered speech cards. One card already read, no private file. I took another and wrote, uniform and engine photograph. Station 4 use after warning. The commission had given me a lawful way to fight the demotion. The ballot gave voters no clean way to remove my name. Within 48 hours, I had to decide what accepting fair discipline required. Week 9 reached Tuesday evening with 1 ceiling light burning in my campaign office. I counted 43 unused signs, 14 flyer boxes, and 9 unpaid invoices. Each invoice carried my name, not the county's. The ballot withdrawal deadline had passed before the commission's finding. It was the last day candidates could remove their names before ballots were printed. My name would remain beside Grant Pike and Jan Bell. Even after a public withdrawal, votes for my printed name stayed valid. I spread precinct sheets across Talia's old desk. They held every supporter contact recorded before she left. Some voters had chosen Grant, while others moved toward Jan after my suspension. Too many marked me as firm. Our 3-way election used a plurality. The candidate with the most votes won, even without half the total. If my supporters stayed with me, Grant could win, while most voters chose someone else. Attacking Grant could also damage Jan. I tested the numbers. Moving 1/4 of my support changed nothing. Half made the race close. Nearly all gave Jan a narrow path. The guesses still pointed one way. I could not seek a private deal with Jan. She was an established candidate, not my replacement or partner. I could only explain what I had done and where my vote would go. I removed the campaign photograph and stacked the frames. My victory plan listed calls, attacks, rural stops, and election night assignments. I crossed out everything except the final radio forum, then opened the campaign case. The forgotten speech cards lay beside the commission finding. One named the uniform and engine photograph. Another named the Station 4 campaign use after warning. I added 3 lines. The complaint was substantially true. I would waive appeal, and voters should choose Jan Bell. The canceled attack mailer had left a deposit I could not recover. Ending the campaign would not erase that debt. It would only stop me adding public office to the things I had mishandled. I counted the signs because counting felt safer than deciding. 43 signs could still tell voters to ignore my withdrawal. I marked the inventory against further placement and canceled every campaign call. Victory was no longer my objective. I needed enough supporters to leave my printed name and keep it from helping Grant. I feared that choice because I could not direct the result, only make my position unmistakable. I placed the blank appeal waiver above my radio notes. Waiving it meant voluntarily giving up employment review and accepting demotion. I still had to preserve that option through Thursday's forum. Afterward, one signed page could make captain rank final. I turned off the ceiling light. My last campaign task was asking voters to reject me. My last employment choice had to happen before that final radio minute ended. Wednesday morning, I carried 2 boxes into the chief's office. Suspension kept me from command, but the nameplate remained. I removed it first. The office held 17 years in small objects, commendation plaques, training photographs, and a coffee mug Eli painted as a boy. The uniform and engine belonged to the district. I had treated their public meaning as mine. I packed personal items and left district manuals untouched. Noreen entered while I wrapped the mug. Noreen, the district administrator handling my discipline, carried appeal and waiver forms. "You may file notice today and keep the appeal alive," she said. "You can withdraw it later." "I want the choice open through tomorrow's forum," I said. "Then file before this afternoon," Noreen said, placing the waiver beside it. "This waiver voluntarily gives up employment review. Once submitted, your demotion becomes final." "Can I prepare it now and sign tomorrow?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Do not sign until you choose." Noreen had protected my choice without protecting my rank. I signed the appeal notice, preserving review until I chose to surrender it. "What happens Friday if I submit the waiver Thursday night?" I asked. "You report at captain's pay when suspension ends," Noreen replied. "You will not return to this office." She stated the rule, option, and consequence. In a drawer, I found my first chief's badge in a cloth pouch. District property stayed with the district, so I placed it beside the manuals. The recovered speech cards rested in my campaign case, their edges bent from the night I found them on Grant's desk. I turned them over and printed my admissions in block letters. I had approved the uniform and engine campaign photograph. After warning, I had allowed campaign activity inside Station 4. Further cards said Grant's engine claim was false, his original complaint was true, I would waive appeal, withdraw, and vote for Jan. They once held applause lines, now they held facts that fit inside 1 minute. Noreen watched me place the unsigned waiver beneath them. "You are allowed to appeal," she said. "I know," I replied. "You may also campaign while obeying district rules," Noreen said. "I know that too," I said. She did not ask what I planned to say. I sealed both boxes and carried them into the hall. My office looked larger without my belongings. At the captain locker area, Noreen had left protective equipment in my size without chief markings. I checked the coat, helmet, gloves, and boots. They were ordinary district gear. Accepting them made the coming rank real. I placed Omar's ruler in my campaign case because it belonged to unfinished resident work. Before noon, I filed the notice preserving my appeal. The waiver remained unsigned beside the cards. I had cleared the office before my public choice. Next, I had to approach Eli without using that choice to buy forgiveness. Wednesday night, I drove to Eli's workshop after its lights went dark. Eli was the foster son I raised under those same rules. He left my campaign when I claimed good motives excused my conduct. His truck stood beside the building. I parked near the road and carried an envelope and his spare workshop key to the doorway. I knocked once. Metal shifted inside, but Eli did not open the door. I could have knocked again, called him, or waited beside his truck. Each choice would turn my visit into pressure. I placed the key with the envelope beneath it. The envelope held copies of my forum cards. Its first page named both sustained violations. I had approved the uniform and engine campaign photograph. After Noreen's written warning, I had allowed campaign activity inside Station 4. The second page separated Grant's acts. His original neutrality complaint was substantially true, while his engine diversion claim was false. I would not use the later lie to hide from the first truth. The final page listed my planned consequences: waive the employment appeal, accept captain rank, withdraw, and ask my supporters to vote for Jan Bell. I added one handwritten sentence for Eli. No answer was required. The workshop remained silent. I rested my hand against the door without pushing, since the key no longer gave me permission. "I left the key and my notes, Eli," I said. "I am not asking you to forgive me." That was my only spoken line. I returned to the truck and sat behind the wheel while no curtain moved and no door opened. My habit was explaining until another person accepted my reason. As chief, I could hold a room until instructions became action. Fatherhood granted no such authority. Eli had asked whether I would obey the rule I taught him. The answer could not depend on whether he listened. I drove away without watching the mirror. At home, my campaign office key remained on the ring. Talia had returned her spare when she ended our engagement. Now Eli's workshop key was gone. The losses were different, but both doors belonged to other people. I placed the commission waiver on my kitchen table, leaving its signature line blank. Then I timed the radio cards aloud. My first reading took 1 minute and 23 seconds, while the second took 71. I removed every defense, including the affair, stolen campaign advantage, and Grant's attempted lie. None changed my violations. The third reading took 56 seconds, leaving 4 seconds for the signature and secure electronic submission. I set my phone beside the waiver. Noreen had given me the filing address. The forum began next evening, and Eli had made no promise to listen. I would still make every loss irreversible before the countdown reached 0. Thursday evening, I entered the radio booth with the waiver in my case. Grant, my former protege and election rival, stood across the table. His complaint had exposed real violations before his campaign added a false claim. I answered without attacking his promotion history or affair with Talia. Those facts could hurt him, but they could not make me fit for office. A digital clock faced both microphones, and each closing statement lasted 1 minute. Grant spoke first. "Public trust is like emergency equipment," Grant said. "Once compromised, it cannot be repaired with a late inspection." His polished comparison was fair. Then Grant called my planned withdrawal a tactic to control Jan's voters. I felt my answer rise. I could expose his false engine claim, Talia's correction, and Omar's torn approval line. That truth would become another shield if I used it to preserve myself. Grant's minute ended. The red microphone light came on, and the clock showed 60 seconds. I ordered the forgotten speech cards. "My name is Wes Calder," I said. "I remain printed on the ballot for Blackwater County Commissioner. I approved a campaign photograph using my district uniform and Engine 2. After written warning, I allowed campaign activity inside Station 4. Those were separate violations. Grant Pike's original complaint was substantially true," I said. "No engine left service and no emergency response was delayed. That later claim was false, but it does not erase my acts." I pulled out the waiver. "The Fire Commission demoted me from chief to captain. I had a lawful right to request another review." I signed my name. "I waive that appeal. The demotion and lower pay will be final." With 23 seconds left, I photographed the page, attached it to Noreen's addressed filing message, and pressed send. "I also withdraw from this election," I said. "My printed name remains valid because the ballot deadline passed. Do not vote for me." At 10 seconds, I continued. "If you supported me, vote for Jan Bell. She is already on the ballot, and my campaign debt remains mine." 5 seconds remained. "I wanted command and county office. I broke the boundary that should separate them." At 2 seconds, I said, "Reject my name." 0 appeared, and the microphone light went dark. I gathered the cards that began as notes to save my campaign. They ended as the record of why I closed it. Grant removed his headphones. "You still directed the race," he said. I directed my vote, I replied. Everyone else keeps theirs. My sent messages showed the filed waivers timestamp before the minute ended. I had lost office, rank, and any claim that discipline was forced. The release felt less like victory than setting down equipment I had no right to carry. Voters still faced 3 printed names. I could not control their choices, only reject my own name. Week 10 brought election night and final numbers to the county results hall. My name still collected legal votes from early voters and people who ignored or missed my withdrawal. I watched as the final rural precinct reported. Jan Bell received 10,142 votes. Grant received 10,619, and I received 3,011. Jan won by 223 votes. That was a narrow plurality, the largest share in a 3-way count, though less than half the total. Her victory belonged to her campaign and voters. My withdrawal changed the field. Grant stood near the front beside Talia. Talia, my former fiancée and campaign manager, remained his partner after rejecting his campaign's false wording. They crossed the hall together, and Grant stopped several feet from me. "You found a way to lose and still choose the winner," Grant said, though his jaw tightened. "I chose my vote," I replied. "The county chose John." "You told your supporters where to go," Grant said. "I told them what I had done," I replied. Grant studied the totals. "A confession can be the sharpest campaign message." "It did not put me in office," I said. "No," Grant replied. "It only kept me out." The consequence was real and proportionate. Grant had filed a valid complaint, then tried expanding it with a lie. He lost the election without losing his livelihood or relationship. "I will return to consulting," Grant said. "Ordinary work is waiting Monday." Talia folded her event badge into her purse. "I am done with campaign work." "With all of it?" Grant asked. "With organizing, messaging, and candidate management," Talia replied. "Not with you." Her precise answer left no doubt. She had left me and stayed with him. The election caused neither her ruin nor return. Talia faced me. "The remaining signs can be released from campaign use. Final invoices are in the account file." "I will pay them," I said. "They are personal campaign debt," she replied. "Closing the committee does not erase them." "I know," I said. She nodded without apology, invitation, or another fight. Grant and Talia left together through the main doors. I remained beneath the final count. Friday would begin my captain's pay, with less income, authority, and no chief's office. The district kept me employed without pretending repeated violations deserved another warning. I opened Omar's message containing priority routes from our field work. Route 6, Route 12, then Mills Spur. The 43 signs were no longer campaign tools. Covered and cut, they could become reflective hydrant markers. I had enough material for the first routes, but not enough hands. Eli had not called after finding my key and notes. I left carrying the inventory and Omar's measurements. Jan had won, Grant had lost, and I remained defeated by my own public choice. The next work offered no ballot, title, or promised forgiveness. Saturday morning, after the election, I laid campaign signs on a rural firehouse bench, their names and slogans face down. Omar, my former precinct captain and rural road advocate, opened his marked maps beside the cutting tools. "Route 6 needs 5, Omar said. "Route 12 needs 4, and Mill Spur needs 2. His red circles set our order. Using Omar's ruler, I marked each piece 12 inches wide and 24 inches tall. I scored it again, then snapped the piece along the ruler. Omar covered its printed face with reflective material. Red and silver strips showed where crews should look. The sign no longer asked anyone to choose me. It pointed toward water. A truck stopped outside. Eli entered without greeting me. He wore gloves and carried a square for straight cuts. He studied the signs, maps, and reflective tape. "I heard the forum," Eli said. I waited as he said, "You gave up the appeal and told people to reject you." "Yes," I replied. "That does not settle everything," Eli said. "I know," I replied. His words established the boundary. Eli touched a finished marker. "Is this district work?" "Approved safety work," I said. "We are off duty, and no campaign claim remains." Omar tapped Route 6 on the map. "Crews miss this bend after dark. The first 5 markers go there." Eli checked the measurements. "You cut the first one crooked?" "I did," I said. He held out his hand, and I nearly offered him a campaign roll from habit. No campaign or title remained worth giving. Instead, I handed him Omar's ruler. Eli placed it across another sign. "I am here for this morning." Do not turn that into more." "I will not," I said. His return was conditional, not forgiveness, restored trust, or a promise about next week. It was one morning of useful work. We formed a line at the bench. Omar marked route codes, Eli measured, and I cut and covered the old lettering. By noon, 11 completed markers stood against the wall. My campaign debt still waited at home, and captain's pay would slow every payment. My chief rank was gone, with no election result returning it. Omar checked each marker against his route sheet. Route 6 can be installed first, then we keep moving. Every red circle marked work still owed, and 43 signs could not cover every neglected road. We loaded the first route set into my truck. Sunlight crossed the doorway and struck the reflective strips, casting bright bands along the wall. Eli adjusted one strip that sat a quarter-inch low. I reached toward the ruler, then stopped because he still held it. "Hold the next sign steady," Eli said. I steadied it. Eli measured, drew the line, and handed back the ruler. My knife split the old name beneath its covering, while reflected light crossed Omar's maps, a quiet reminder that true leadership isn't found in titles or public applause, but in the humble, steady work of rebuilding broken trust. As I leave my old ambitions behind to focus on this new path, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the complex choices Talia, Grant, and I made when our ambitions collided with our loyalties? Thank you so much for watching this journey unfold, and if you found value in this story, please subscribe to the Infidelity Director channel for more narratives exploring the deep, complicated intersections of life, love, and consequence.